I am Senator Angela V. McKnight, hailing from the 31st Legislative District that covers all of Bayonne, all of Kearney, and parts of Jersey City. I welcome you here today and joining us. Your presence means so much as we come together for a conversation that is not only timely, but necessary. The economic impact of Black women exiting the workforce. I want to extend my deepest gratitude to the African American Chamber of Commerce Foundation for partnering with us, the New Jersey Legislative Black Caucus Foundation. I am the president of the foundation, and we are to bring this critical dialogue to the forefront. Together, we are creating space to address the challenges, opportunities, and solutions that shape the future of our communities. This partnership is a reflection of our shared commitment to equity, economic empowerment, and informed policies that uplifts Black residents, businesses, and families. When we unite our voices, expertise, and collective power, we move closer to meaningful progress and lasting change. So, to set the stage for this amazing conversation, between May and August of 2025, approximately 300,000 Black women left the U.S. labor workforce. And this is according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics data, cited by Forbes and the Economic Policy Institute. This marks one of the sharpest short-term workforce declines among any demographic group. Here are some key stats. Labor force participation. Black women's participation dropped from roughly 63.5% to 61% within 3 months, reversing the post-pandemic gains. Employment sectors. The largest impacts were seen in public administration, education, healthcare, and social assistance, sectors where Black women are heavily represented. Educational attainment. Black women continue to be the most educated demographic group by degree attainment among women in the US. Economic role. Nearly 70% of Black mothers are the primary or sole breadwinners. And the economic impact. Analysis estimates that the loss of 300,000 Black women workers could equate to over $35 to $40 billion in GDP loss annually through reduced wages, spending, and productivity. Now, Malcolm X made a famous declaration in his 1962 speech, and he stated, "The most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the Black woman. The most neglected person in America is the Black woman." Now let that ponder, especially when we lost 300,000 jobs. So today, we are honored to have some amazing people who will be discussing this important topic. So first, I want to introduce Dr. Melinda Johnson. Dr. Melinda Johnson is an executive and consultant whose work centers on equity, economic growth, and organizational excellence. She leads Johnson Insight and Leadership, advising mission-driven organizations on strategy and governance. Her career includes more than a decade in leadership roles at Drexel University, including Director of Operations for the Institute for Women's Health and Leadership, followed by her service as Executive Director of Caucus Pro Bono in Greater Philadelphia. A consistent focus throughout her work is strengthening pathways for women, especially Black women, to lead and succeed. She brings a clear perspective on the economic impact of labor force attrition among underrepresented groups. Dr. Johnson serves as Vice President of the African American Chamber of Commerce Foundation Board and is on the board of the Center of Aquatics Sciences. She earned her doctorate from Drexel University and her bachelor's degree from Stanford University. Let's welcome Dr. Melinda Johnson. Next, we have D.C. Marshall. D.C. Marshall is the CEO and managing partner of AI Training Plus, powered by Diverse and Engaged, and is recognized as a LinkedIn top voice for equity and a leading authority on inclusion. She has spent more than a decade advising senior leaders, including members of the U.S. House of Representatives, the Congressional Black Caucus, the Congressional Progressive Caucus, and women state senators across the country. Dee serves as a senior advisor on diversity, equity, and inclusion for the Black Women's Roundtable and sits on the boards of directors for the Women's Business Enterprise National Council and Women Impacting Public Policy. A champion for Black communities and small business owners, she is also the author of AI Literacy, the New Equity Issue. Her global work includes initiatives under the Scale Black banner and the launch of the Global Leadership Institute in West Africa. Dee has been widely recognized for her influence and has been featured in major national and international media outlets. Welcome, D.C. Marshall.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, last but certainly not least, our Assemblywoman Shavonda Sumter. Assemblywoman Sumter has served in the New Jersey General Assembly since 2012 and has held key leadership roles, including Deputy Speaker and Majority Conference Leader. She represents the 35th Legislative District and currently chairs the Assembly Community Development and Women's Affairs Committee. In this role, she focuses on community revitalization, narrowing the wealth gap, supporting small businesses, and advancing women's rights. She also serves as vice chair of the Environment, Natural Resources, and Solid Waste Committee and is a member of the Labor Committee. Notably, she is the first woman to lead the New Jersey Legislative Black Caucus. Assemblywoman Sumter is a champion for job growth, women's health, civil rights, and criminal justice reform. Her work includes advancing legislation to address the Black maternal and infant mortality and restoring voting rights for more than 80,000 residents on probation or parole. She brings more than 20 years of experience in mental health services and currently serves as president and CEO of Children's Aid and Family Services. She holds an MBA from Fairleigh Dickinson University and a bachelor's degree in political science from Kean University. Deeply committed to public service, she continues to lead with purpose and integrity. She and her husband, Kenneth, have been married for 27 years and are proud parents of 2 children. Welcome, Assemblywoman Sumter.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you.
All right, so I have done all of the introductions, but now I want to open it up to allow each of the panelists to share some opening remarks. So let's start with Assemblywoman Sumter.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction, Senator McKnight. Truly, also for informing our viewers of this very critical topic. It was important to me as your partner in the New Jersey legislature that we as Black women, through our foundation, uplift the challenges that we are faced with in unprecedented time. But first, I like us just to think for a moment, for those who are listening and those who hear the recording, a wellness check. The loss of Black women in the workforce is not due to any fault of their own. You know how I feel about mental health and mental wellness. So please take time to either not just text, give a sister a call, take her out for a coffee, tea, glass of wine, just to check in. I like for you to see or hear the voice because, you know, in a text, you lose that personal touch. So I do want us to remember to do that through this time because we will get through this. We'll get through this together. And then I want us to think about the historical plight. Oftentimes we think that this is the first time we've ever experienced anything like this. Now, I'm an NAACP brat, where we've read about all of the different battles and fights for desegregation, for the right to vote, for desegregated schools. And New Jersey still have some of the most segregated schools in the country based on zip code. But let's think about the role of women in the workplace. Let's think about how we stand up our communities when we're healthy. A lot of the work that we've done in the legislature has focused on making sure that there was systemic repair. Government is one of the largest employers. I know I was told when I was going off to school post high school, go to college, then get a good job. If you work for the government, you will be secure. Today, 2025, that was the first thing on the chopping block. It was not for lack of degrees, lack of intelligence, inability to do the job, and not showing up for work. In fact, you had some of the most highest level, highest educated Black women who were first on the chopping block to be removed from the workforce or given a notice. We take our librarian who national librarian, cross political lines for both a Republican president, a Democratic president, who supported the National Archives, our treasurer, that was under attack, the National African American Museum. We can look at spaces in time, let alone in the science fields and in the military. Part of the work that we've worked on, and Senator McKnight, you were right there with me, was for the disparity study in the chamber, was there with us to one, get it funded because it was court mandated for the state to do business with minorities, women, and business entities. We knew sensationally that we were locked out of the procurement process for both Republican and Democratic governors, but yet every campaign cycle, it was part of the campaign messaging on how we would do more businesses with them. And then also that we have the credentials, whether we were professional architects, engineers, accountants, or doctors or lawyers. We had the same certifications, and we still were locked out from opportunities to contract with our state for construction, professional services, and goods and services. The numbers were stark. State procurement showed it was, while we had 38% of women eligible to do contracting professionally with the state, it was less than 10% that received an opportunity for a less than $800,000 contract. And I'm stating these numbers because we have capacity. We were in position. we lived in the state, we had certifications, and still were not included. And then you had this year to round out with a mass exodus in Target. Let's be clear, Target on African American women to get out of the workspace. Let's also not forget for the Democratic Party, we're over 90% of their voting base consistently. Every major executive campaign courts the Black woman because our work is unquestionable. When we double down, our voice has value. We lift up an entire community and we take care of the community and we're trusted. So as Black women who have the intellectual capital, we need to create the safe space and we also need to uplift our sister stories. And that's why I'm so excited that we're hosting this webinar today. And I'll hold it there for my other sisters to be introduced. And thank you for moderating this panel.
Thank you so much, Assemblywoman. Next, I would like to have Dr. Johnson to give some opening remarks.
Good morning, good early afternoon. I first want to say thank you to the New Jersey Legislative Black Caucus for convening this really critical conversation. A huge thank you to Senator McKnight, Assemblywoman Sumter, and it is a pleasure to be with you, Dee Marshall. From my perspective, like when I think about what is happening, when I see a number like 300,000, it could feel abstract, but as a Black woman, it's hard for me to look at this as a statistic. I see us, I see our individual stories in it, whether it be your aunt, your sister, your daughter. So my frame for looking at this is first through my own lived experience. When I first heard the term double minority, I said, "Oh God, they can't be talking about me." You know, as a Black woman, I carry the weight of the intersection between racial and gender segregation or discrimination, should I say? But what does that mean? For me, it means that I've known how to navigate spaces that haven't been built for me. I've known what it's like to be in a situation that's similar to this one. And so one of the things that I want to come away from this conversation is encouraging us, those of us who are most affected by this particular being forced out of the labor market, is to invest in yourself. I think that's one of the most radical things you can do. And so I love that the Assemblywoman started with, let's take care of ourselves. Let's make sure that we're reaching out, because this is a systemic push out of the most educated, highly talented portion of the workforce. And they're now telling us, find your own path. But that's exactly what we're going to do. So I looked at this. I look at this through my lived experience. I also know, you said it earlier, these political and systemic rollbacks are not necessarily new to us. What I think will be interesting is when we discuss what this means in terms of economic impact globally. When will others start to feel like they have to have this conversation about what does it mean to lose this crucial footholding around equity that we really have just been building, and so the legalistic spin on it is different this time, but exclusion is not new to us, and so tragically, in many ways, it's par for the course. I also think it's really important for us to be solution oriented. We come to this conversation knowing the problem. I think after the discussion, the real call to action is, how do we begin to cure it? What are those policies, those programs that we want to put forward that not only bring Black women back to work, but bring us back into an environment where we can thrive? Because this number has grown over time. Right now, it's magnified, but this has been happening. There have been aggressions across the landscape for decades, and so Black women have been being pushed out for a long time, but this is by and far the largest push, the largest concentration of that push. So I'm just looking forward to diving into these issues with all of you today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson. Last but not least, can we have some opening remarks from DC Marshall?
Yes, thank you so much. And I'll be brief. Again, I want to just echo what Dr. Johnson and what Assemblywoman Sumter has said. Senator, thank you so much for convening this. I think this is a very much appropriate and timely discussion. And so I'm going to share this just in terms of my frame for our time together, from, what is the hat that I'm wearing today. So number one, the hat that I am wearing today is as I'm going to say a corporate insider, as a consultant, as a company that goes inside of larger enterprise to see the, I would say, systemic barriers, to see the issues in terms of they're macroaggressions. And, microaggression is just, it's a SAT word for racism, but we were having to be polite in the last season. And so I first come with that hat on to be additive to the convening today. Number two, but I also come as a champion for Black women. Let me just say Black women. I wear several hats, and I'm clear. I wear several hats. I am on the board of directors for WeBank, which is the largest third-party certifying organization of women business owners. And it is a majority white woman organization, however inclusive. But today I come because I'm a champion of Black women. I also was just elected to the board of directors for Women Impacting Public Policy, and they're representing 14 million women business owners. But today I come as a champion for Black women, and particularly Black women in corporate, Black working women. And so that is the second hat that I'm wearing today, and the perspective that my hope is to be additive here. And what I mean by that is, for many years, for our sisters working the traditional 9 to 5, when I and my company are inside of corporate, I've always said, sis, let's talk about offline. You need your own personal brand. You need, for your genius and what it is that you contribute, wherever you are. I want to make sure that you need to set things up in a way that you can protect and provide for yourself. So I come as a champion, celebrating and supporting Black women. So that's the second hat that I wear today. And then the third is as an advocate, right? So as an advocate, I used to say I'm not political or politico, but people would always assume that I was, because I would just hang out with all of the people, all of the policy people, the public servants, and the champions who are the superheroes at the local, state, and federal or government level. But I really understood the assignment that God had given me and the access that I have. And so I have great privilege to be able to advocate where this is not business. No, I'm not getting paid for this, but to see things and then to be able to use my access and my voice to advocate for our communities. And so I come today just as a matter of frame with those three hats to be additive to this conversation, and then to say three things. One, Black women, I'm talking to you, sis, come in close. Baby, I am here for, number one, to affirm, if you lost your job, your genius helped to create and to deliver and to do good and great and meaningful powerful work wherever you are. So number one, it is to affirm you. So this conversation and my intention is just to affirm that your losing your job or on the other side does not make you, it does not take away from you, it does not diminish you, it does not reduce you. And so there should be no shame and no shade. Number two, my hope for this conversation, and Dr. Johnson alluded to it as well, is empower and equip. So those are my three objectives here: to affirm, empower, and equip. And what do I mean by that is we talk a lot about the issues, and because I live in the, I would say in the chasm between business and advocacy and business and policy, I know we have to educate from the policy side, right? But we are so good together because when everybody owns their position and in their lane and we come together, we're additive. And so we have geniuses like the assemblywoman here, the senator, and then Dr. Johnson, and then you have me, but us together, we are additive together, where we talk a bit, where we hold up the issues, where we provide the stats, the data, and then we provide strategy. I am here for your takeaway is a strategy, because right now our communities need pen to paper. It's strategy. We need strategy. Furthermore, we need strategy. We need a plan. We need family plans right now. Black women who've lost jobs. And first, you need your plan about how you're going to do what the assemblywoman said is number one, put yourself first. So we need that plan. And then we need plan to be able to provide for ourselves. So as a matter of the frame and where I am coming from, I'm coming from insider, but champion of Black women and the genius that we hold, and then an advocate for our communities. But to leave here, you feeling affirmed, empowered, but equipped to rewrite, to reimagine, to recalibrate. What are we going to do now? Not what we are going to do. No, I take that back. In this instance, it's what you're going to do. It's what you're going to do for your family. So there is a collective we, but no, I'm purposeful with my words. It's no, what are you going to do, sis? Let's talk about your strategy. Let's talk about your plan. Let's talk about what you're going to do. It's November. What is it that we are going to do, and then you are going to do to take care of you, to rewrite the next iteration of how you provide for yourself, how you provide for your family. So thank you. I know we're going to get into this a little bit more, but that's what I am hoping and believing for, just to be additive to the conversation.
Wow, now that was just the opening from these three powerful women. We heard Assemblywoman Sumter say we were targeted, Black women were targeted. We heard Dr. Johnson say we need solutions. And we just heard DC Marshall say she is a champion and she wants to uplift you. So that's just the opening. We are going to jump into these questions. The first question I'm going to start off, I'm going to direct it to Dr. Johnson, but this is an open forum. So please, DC Marshall and Assemblywoman, chime in as you see fit. So, Dr. Johnson, what are the main structural drivers that appear to be pushing or pulling approximately 300,000 Black women out of the U.S. workforce in recent months?
So this is the story of the double minority being squeezed at both sides. We're pushed by, newly permissible culture that includes DEI rollbacks and layoffs in the public sector. This is fields that we were actually kind of funneled into as stable fields for Black women. At the same time, we have this unsustainable burden. We're oftentimes pulled because we are breadwinners. We are heads of households. And so being the default caregiver in a nation with a collapsed infrastructure for care is another burden we face as women. So the lived experience is often one of exhaustion. These structural drivers are undoubtedly race and gender. And you're fighting some battles which appear to be invisible. And there's no real safety net. And so this is the problem. This is the quandary, one we've seen before.
I see DC Marshall, you shaking your head. I know you have something to add to this.
You know, I was going to leave it to Dr. Johnson. I think the one thing that I would, I guess, add to, to what do we attribute, right, the current place that we are. I mean, it is the obvious whenever you have a leader of at any level, a leader directly, indirectly influences the other leaders, no matter where we are. If we're talking about enterprise, if we're talking about public sector, if we're talking about whatever level, federal, state, local, whatever is the tone and temperament of the leader, the beliefs of the leader, the value of the leader, a majority within will assimilate. They will, there's the anticipatory compliance, right? So the anticipatory compliance in I'm going to say on the enterprise side is what we are seeing this year in 2025. So I would say, to add to what Dr. Johnson has just mentioned, it's the leader. It is the chief commander of these yet to be United States, has made it clear and obvious and an open book for 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years in advance, said that this is out. This is at the top of my issues agenda. Is Black people, is Black women, is Black women, because my opponent is. And so let me try to clean this up. And by the way, forgive me because I don't know all of the rules, everybody. I don't know the rules and the policies of, okay. So listen, we need everybody here to keep their job. We need the senator still in her role and the assemblywoman and Dr. Johnson. So I'm going to say my views are my own. Okay. So forgive me. And I mean no disregard or disrespect, but I will say this. It is the drop down from the leader. So that's number one. But even before that, in the last 5 years, I would say in the workplace, people have been bothered, annoyed to no end that the last 5 years have been a Black agenda. So real quick, in 2020, of course, at the diversity tipping point, the period beginning May of 2020, when corporate America for the very first time said that Black lives, air quotes, do matter, and they prioritize Black people. Before then, you couldn't be Black in corporate America. You could not. You couldn't talk about Black except for the Black Employee Resource Group, right? And so for the last 5 years, that push to address surfacely systemic barriers, right, that would have kept Black people out, that was too much. And so as soon as affirmative action was overturned, even though it had nothing to do with the workplace, right? That was a welcome mat in workplace, whether public sector or private sector, for the people to, you can do away with this, because this is all, this is no longer necessary. And what do I mean by that? It's no longer necessary to prioritize Black people. So I'm going to pause there because I could go on, but that's all I would say in terms of adding to what Dr. Johnson mentioned. It's the lead, and then but even before that, this was too much. And even before that, Black women were not favored in the workplace. Why? Because of some of the smartest, most brilliant people on the planet. Save the planet, I mean, let me stop here. So I think we get it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Assemblywoman Sumter, do you have anything to add to that?
So I want to thank you all for putting it on the table. The one thing I love about the Legislative Black Caucus Foundation, uh, in the pandemic, we decided to start holding these virtual webinars to have the safe space, to have the tough conversations about what we were experiencing in a trusted space. So I want to frame that for this webinar for the participants. If you have questions, please continue to put them in the chat. Policy-wise, Black women earn 60 cents on the dollar to the white male counterpart. So despite being degreed, same degrees, I'm an MBA, somebody else is an MBA, but just because of my race, gender, right? Double discriminatory factor versus my superpower, because I was raised by a strong Black woman. It's my superpower, right? To be able to pivot, to be able to create a safe space where there was no safe space, to be able to put the shoulders back, walk into that room where you're still the only one. We've been fighting for pay equity since we came into the legislature, and it came before us. Am I right, Senator McKnight?
Absolutely correct.
So while we're in these spaces, we're still not compensated at a fair rate. So you get a discount in these spaces for the talent that we bring. But I also want to uplift when we want to think of solutions. Government is a place where they still need talent. In New Jersey, that's the battle that we have to have as voters. Power in your vote, who you elect has consequences and matters. 2020, absolutely. Seeing the senseless death of George Floyd brought Black Lives Matter into light, brought a corporate conscience because everyone was home and they witnessed a live, senseless loss of life on television. My kids were asking, Mom, what are you going to do? And we went to work. The Black Caucus went to work expediently. We already had deficits in maternal health. Right now, there's 2,000 funded public service positions just in New Jersey. 2,000. We know when you don't have government workers in these positions, there's no one to answer the phone. And I know you do AI, DC Marshall, and I believe that AI is a tool that we also need to use and engage in, and it is everywhere, and we shouldn't be afraid of it, right? But how do we make sure that we're supporting ourselves? You think of DMV, our mobile units do better servicing our communities than going into an actual motor vehicle office. Having identification all matters. So it's how do we create these spaces? And in the chat, someone's going to put in, if you have an LLC, as we heard about pivoting in this season, let's not be afraid to start our own business enterprise. Something you've been thinking about doing, because we're all very creative. And listen, I've worked 2 jobs my entire life. This year is my last term in elected office, and I'm excited because I was exhausted. All of my health reports, including my vision, has gotten better since I made that conscious decision not to seek reelection, because we internalize our stress. We think we're getting through it and we're battling it. And I was there for my whole community always. And you're carrying the weight of the world as a Black woman. But what does it look like for you to take care of yourself? I go to a Baptist church where my pastor preached fast. That funeral will be 1 hour. That much I can assure you. So if I'm not healthy, what good am I? But set up an LLC, even if you don't know what you want to do. It doesn't cost you much. And I want you to register with the state, which is free, because the senator and I made sure it was free and no cost as an MWBE business in the state of New Jersey. Because what we're going to do is say, hey, we got some folks who are registered. Go through that query who could do professional services, goods and services, some contracting or prime for construction. Because what we don't want to hear is we can't find anybody. And then the other thing I'm going to leverage with this senator, with the Black Caucus Foundation, is as we have events and in-person events, we want to create that safe space for us to gather. We crack up all the time. When we get together in the State House and literally we form a circle real quick. When we see each other, we form a circle and it is hugs, love, and people are like, what are they doing? Right? We're loving on one another the way that we know how. So make sure when you're creating those spaces, find joy in those moments. Thank you, Senator.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just to, for everyone that's listening, and DC Marshall, you was like, these are my views. This is a safe space. We are Blacks, and we probably have others who are not Black here, but you wanted to be here today to listen to this very important conversation. So no apologies. You're saying what you're saying because it's coming from your heart, and you're saying it with integrity, okay? So I'm going to jump to Sumter, Assemblywoman Sumter. I'm going to lead this question with you. Given that Black women are currently among the most educated demographic groups in the US and often serve as primary breadwinners in their household, what are the short and long-term consequences of this workforce exit for families, communities, and economic equity?
Thank you for that. So, equity is a term that, uh, we're told not to use today, but doesn't exist. Still something, it's that elusive dream that we're fighting for, chasing equity, treating me fairly for the content of my character, not the color of my skin or not my gender, right? But we're not there yet, so it's an aspirational goal. The other piece, we just saw less than 72 hours ago, federal government shutdown, food insecurities existing not only for families, but for children, for seniors, for veterans, for the underhoused individuals. It wasn't partisan. It wasn't Democrat or Republican, the need for food. So when you talk about an economic impact of women, Black women being targeted, taken out of the workforce where they're heads of households, sometimes working 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet, and a safe space for their families, serving as the therapist, the doctor, chief cook, and bottle washer. Uh, it's harmful for the economics of it. If you're corporate, you do better with a healthier workforce. You do better with a workforce who's showing up to uh, give their best self, give you additional time. Because we found in the pandemic when people were working virtually, guess what they were doing? Working longer hours, putting in more time.
Got a point there.
So it's not a point of a disingenuousness of how we show up. I will tell you again, we know Black women are some of the most loyal, even when we're not loved or treated with respect. We're still going to show up and deliver because we're the caregivers as well. If you think of all the social safety net positions, nonprofit space, home care, child care, underpaid, under-resourced, primarily Black women working in that space. And I'll hold it there.
Thank you so much. You're absolutely correct. DC, do you have anything to add to this? All right. Well, Dr. Johnson, do you have something to add?
I love that Assemblywoman Sumter brought up pay equity because pay equity, pay, income, the ability to accumulate wealth, this is what is suffering. And women in general, being caregivers, oftentimes that'll force them out of the workplace for a period of time. And I think we need to be mindful that it's possible that this large statistic doesn't include all women who were necessarily forced out in the same ways, following this permissive culture of bias. But I think it's really important to think about the income earnings of a woman over her lifetime and this pervasive racial wealth gap, because that is one of the more severe consequences. And when you when you place families in positions where they're unable to have their basic needs met, this poverty is tied to poor education. Like it's tied to poor health outcomes. Like all of these things are in many ways married together, and it's your hierarchy of being able to take care of your basic needs. So I really feel like this is just we're seeing short-term consequences, job losses. As things continue to roll out, I think this will become a bigger problem for America at large. I mean, we're already in a place where we know our workforce development, our labor force is unprepared, which is why I love that D. Marshall is here and can speak to how we need to many of us need an upskilling in the skills. But so I think the consequences, the short and long, are relatively severe when you think about all the things that are impacted when you don't have self-sufficiency and when there are people depending on you to provide that sort of thing for them. So I think, pay equity is something that we have to continue to try to move forward. But that's inclusive of why is there no value attributed to the woman's care of the youth and the elderly. That's we're operating in a capacity that deserves a level of value. I don't know. I know we're clearly not at a point, an inflection point where that's something that we would be looking at as a nation, but it is something that we have to look at. When you think about security, when you think about Social Security, the reason you don't mind paying into something is because you're going to receive something back, right? And I just feel like there are certain credits that should be given in those areas too, to elevate a woman's income over her lifetime, to elevate her ability to sustain herself over her lifetime. And so I just wanted to piggyback on that.
Absolutely. And now DC Marshall, she said, I want to jump into this one. Go
I
ahead.
know, I was trying not to, but Dr. Johnson, so yeah, I was trying not to because, but let me just add, yep, consequences. I mean, we are collectively a $1.7 trillion buying power, our communities, the Black community, right? Black people. And we are head of household. I think that was said, the breadwinner, head of household. So that impact, that 1.7 trillion buying impact, I'm going to give a high level example. It's what you see happening at one of the big box stores. When we stop shopping, we stop supporting. Okay, so we'll keep it there so as not to belabor the point, but you get it. But also it's everything else that we support in large number. We support our community, so we write checks to community organizations. So there's a consequence there in terms of where we see where we serve our communities in different ways, and we are the ones who fund that, right? And so when we don't have that, or when we are at a loss, then we're not funding community organizations, we're not shopping. And so our buying power, there's an impact there. There's also an impact if you look at churches, right? And our ability to then tithe and contribute. And then also when you look at, I always say like supporting our elected officials and helping our people or people who represent us well, our ability to support campaigns. I always sort of amplify that, particularly as a businesswoman or as a business owner, but the same applies for working women. It's our ability to fund, public servants who are going to represent us, that there's an impact there. And then how about unemployment? Of course, not the unemployment, but then the unemployment, housing. And so all of the consequences that were said, but more directly and specifically when we are at a loss, then how does that impact our ability to provide, to pay our mortgage, to pay our rent, right? And so I just wanted to add that to the consequences. And yeah, I'll pause because there's so much we could say here. So
What I will add to this is no matter what the Black woman has gone through, we are still standing. We know how to make a dollar out of 15 cents. We are still standing. So thank you. DC Marshall, I am going to start off this question with you. How should we interpret the timing of this trend in relation to the 2024 presidential election, in which Black women voted overwhelmingly against the current administration? And then there's a two-part. What political implications emerge when a key electorate constituency faces sudden labor market retreat?
oh my goodness, I don't know if I'm equipped to answer this question, but I'm gonna tell you what's on my heart. The thing that comes to mind is, let me just share a quick story. So I have a client who is a woman of color, not necessarily a Black woman, but the story is going to make sense here. And it's tying into the election and the timing question, the timing part of the question. And she was in a C-suite position. And then right after the last election, where there was a historic win. I'm sorry, not the last election, not the 2024, but the previous election with the historic win of Kamala Harris being elected as the vice president. So she was in a C-suite position, and then shortly after the election, she got reassigned by a white woman. Okay, so she's a direct report to a company where there's a white male leader, and then she got reassigned by a white woman. And what I shared with her, I will share, and that's my best response to the timing. I said, yeah, friend, let me tell you what just happened. I said, you on the chopping block. Now you know what Black women go through. It was your proximity to a white man that was a mirror of a white man who is the president of the 46th president of the United States, and the Black woman who was chosen is the number 2.
Mhm.
You follow the story. So the white man was in the number 1 seat, but the Black woman, the Black South Asian woman, was in the number 2 seat. And so how that then trickles down, it goes back to my first response about, when you have whoever the leader is, the commander in chief, the president, there's the thing that happens that sends a signal. And what I said to her is, I said, because you two are South Asian women. Now, before this, you were not intimidating. They weren't even looking at you. You were a model minority. But because you are a South Asian woman and the vice president is a South Asian and a Black woman, I said, welcome to our world. Welcome to our world. It was, you are now seen as a threat.
Mm.
And the white woman who had the power to speak into the ear of the CEO and say, no, she needs to report to me. She don't need to be a direct report to you. And I know this is a loose story, but I hope you get what I'm sharing in terms of what happens or during the last election. That is what I would say part of the story, and what my sister friend, who is not a Black woman, but she is a woman of color, she happens to be a South Asian woman, but it was really indicative of I think what happens, right? When the chess pegs are moved, right, based on the leader. And so I would just say, as a result of the election, right, as a result of the election, and as a result of the opponent that is a Black woman is the top of the chopping block. We cannot be that powerful. We cannot be that super bad. We cannot, rally a movement and have the audacity to win people across the country. You cannot. And so we're gonna put you all in y'all's places. Okay. So I know that is Senator. I know that's not exactly what you asked, but that's my best example of what I could say, what happens that is nuanced, that is subtle, right? We are seen and we're seen as a threat in the last round, right? It's because how dare we be brilliant and Black and beautiful and powerful. And so we really need to put you in your position. And there are people and powers, not powers above, the one who has all power, but in places to directly, I'm gonna say sit Black women down. And so that's the best I could say.
Well, no, I appreciate you, and I'm going to turn it over to Assemblywoman Sumter. I appreciate what you said.
Great. And thank you for that. So I want to add a little more color. So oftentimes we hear that economics and politics don't intersect. Economics and politics, the Fed's going to do what the Fed's going to do. That's what they tell you in corporate. And politics is going to be politics. Today, we see it all intersecting. When you have a president who wants to get rid of a Fed chair and a woman, Black woman, overly qualified, federal board member, highly credentialed, has to take him to court because they want to change the rules as a target. When this past election just happened across the country, some say DEI won. New Jersey elected their first in its history woman governor in its history. In a third term. That's the second time in our history that Democrats got a third term as governor off of an election cycle because of the state that we're in, let alone across the country where Blacks, minorities, South Asians, women won. I can tell you that civil rights movement, Fannie Lou Hamer, all of the gains that we've seen as descendants of enslaved Black people, others have benefited from. The senator knows full well, as we deal with our colleagues from the Latino caucus, from the Asian caucus, every statistic from maternal health to pay equity, we're at the bottom tier. I would love to not be there. I say that all the time. I would love to not be in the bottom tier for every social determinant, for every data point. So our job is to figure out the repair and also advocate and have alliances with us in this space, because too many times for all of the educational reforms and opportunities, we were at the forefront of the fight, but we were not at the forefront of the benefactors. All right. So as we come out of this season, my goal is always to be informed and to do better, right? With the knowledge that we have to also be intentional. If we're in hiring spaces, be intentional. Can we pull a Black woman in? Can we bring a Black woman into our organizations? Because in the Q&A, someone said, as a brother, what can I do to help? Can we work together? Because this administration and the tenor is to divide us for the past 9 months. This election in November, the 11th month, showed that our resistance is by staying together as a collective. And that's why this webinar is so critical today. But how can we make spaces and opportunities? How can we cultivate resources for Black women to feel protected, for Black women to come out of this in a better position? Because darn if we want to go back into the workspace and still make 66 cents on the dollar. If statistics are true, we weren't supposed to catch up until 2027, 2022, 27, like some 30-year crazy mark just to try to reach equity. So if equity is no longer a term that we should use, I'll take it. If equality is still something that we're aspiring to, what change are we going to make? Because as political figures, and Senator, I'm saying this, we no longer have to wait for the change of the tide. What we've learned in these past 10 months, 11 months, is that government can move faster for repair, but we allow the powers that be, when they get in, to not only use our platform as talking points, but also to back away from making the change that needs to happen for repair and systemic reforms to allow us to thrive. We're not asking for anything free. We're talking about earning it. And that's something that we have to keep in mind. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love the fact that you said we are in the forefront of the fight, but not the benefactors. And we do it all the time because we care about everyone, everyone. Dr. Johnson, do you have anything to add to this? Okay, well, I'm going to move on to the next question and lead off with you. In what ways might this mass exit of Black women signal deeper weaknesses in the labor market or economy, given that Black women have historically been early indicators of downturns? And how should stakeholders, business leaders, policy makers, and mothers, I'm going to say, respond?
This is a really important question because this is it's a much more national question. Because Black women are more vulnerable to this type of force out of the economic workforce because of the occupations that we have. Like, so if I can just touch on that a little bit, women's work in general is devalued. And so professions like teaching, taking care of folks, that you're just though you're never going to see an abundance of money going into those types of salaries. And so you're already talking about a group of people who their contributions are valued less. They're receiving less money. So they're much more vulnerable. But what you see happening to Black women will eventually be happening to more and more women, more and more of those who have a minority status or look like they are a threat to white culture. And so I think when you look at an economy that fails to leverage, again, their most educated demographic, that says, you know, we'd rather actually reduce the effectiveness of our economy. We could care less about GDP because what we're seeing is this is not about the economy. This is about the degradation of anything that isn't like this what the administration perceives as like there seems to be a category of us and them. I'll say that. And so for those who are defined as other, if you think that's only going to be Black women, you're sorely mistaken. And I think that's where the rest of the country really needs to wake up and take a better look at this, because with economic depression come other problems, come the increase of crime. And it's not just going to be coming from one specific group. once this, this rollback of who belongs, who's eligible to make money, who can participate in this labor force. I like what Assemblyman Sumter brought up, because she talked about, what about starting your own business? And I think we need to talk about what are the avenues that can be pursued that are viable options, because we do have quite a bit of buying power, but it's not being used effectively. And so, you asked the question, what do I think about that this signals about the economy? I think this signals something about our social, political, and economic system. This notion of devaluing certain persons because of race or gender or class, things of that nature. I just think that it signals. I think it signals recession.
Thank you. Sumter, Assemblywoman Sumter or DC Marshall, do you have anything to add? All right. So we have one more question before we close, and I want to start off with DC Marshall. What strategies, both at the corporate and organizational level and the public policy level, will help to retain, re-engage, and advance Black women in the workforce? And what obstacles must be addressed to make those strategies effective? And I'm going to add one more thing to this question. And you said it when you first started, DC, about starting your own, and Assemblywoman Sumter said it as well. So include starting your own LLC.
Yeah. So, yep, I'll add to that in terms of number one, when I said for, women who have been impacted, to shift from we to I. The reason I said shifting from we to I is because the collective we're always thinking about taking care of others. When Assemblywoman mentioned the mental toll that this is and can take on, those of us who are impacted, it's way too heavy. It's triggering. There's so many levels and layers. And my biggest concern is all impacted ability to provide for themselves. That's why I said, no, in this instance, we just have to say I just for this, because if you say I, it's like what do I need to do to provide for myself versus the we. So I just wanted to clarify that point. And I would say, so one, it's a strategy session. I'm gonna just use it. It really is taking a play from workplace, whether on the government side or public sector, I should say, or private sector. It's everybody needs a strategy session with themselves right now. And that is to reevaluate their skills, their strengths, experience, expertise, and to reimagine. And then this is where we use tools and where we get together and, and where we start having conversations about what we did and then what we're interested in doing. So I think everybody needs a strategy session with themselves to reevaluate and to reimagine. And then number two, the reimagining, it is entrepreneurship, business ownership. What I love that Assemblywoman Sumter is modeling is I heard her say she's always had two jobs. We should always have, it's okay to be, multi-gifted and multi financially, sourced. And so I would say definitely business ownership. And what that would look like now, it's creating a product. providing a service. So consulting services, your expertise that you gave to the job, whether it's a public sector or the private sector, is an easy entree, right? It's a low barrier. So figuring out now, is it a service? Is it your expertise that you could offer to provide for yourself right now in this season? And then it's a product. There's never been an easier, I would say, access to creating a product, right? Solving a problem by way of a product, because we have and we live in such a a highly social digital world. We can create a product, we can create a resource, a tool, and monetize legitimately, legally. And so I would say everyone needs to be thinking about it and believing in themselves that they can do it. In fact, you see more of the 300,000 plus of women who have exited the workplace. A lot of our sister friends are starting their own businesses. A lot of them are saying, well, no, I'm not going back. I'm not looking for another job. And so I would say that right now, today, before the end of the year, figuring it out and then asking the question for others who have businesses. Look, I'm around. Listen, ask other people. So I think it's that. I heard this about a government worker who works, I forget what department in the federal government, but set up a hot dog stand. Now, look, I already know, sis, y'all not setting up hot dog stands because I already know, but you know what? I'm not here to judge. But the hot dog stand, it said, look, I lost my job based on the shutdown. I don't have an income, and so buy a hot dog. And I'm not saying sell hot dogs, but I'm saying that's the type of creative genius that it's going to take. And for us to move beyond ego, I also think it is okay to ask your sister, tap your sister in the group chats right now for all of our Black women. No, I'm getting texts to say, hey, can you support sis need mortgage money? And you know what I have sent back? Yep, how much? And this is appropriate. It is appropriate right now to just ask collectively in your own networks. So so I hope this is helpful. And by the way, AI can help us, to Assemblywoman's point, help us asking, here's my background, here's my experience. What are the top 3 opportunities for me right now? So that's an example of using our tools. So I'm going to stop there. I could go on, but if you just remember, it's a strategy session with yourself, and invite other people to be on your advisory board, your personal advisory board, to say, hey, I'm in a season of transition. Here's what I need to be doing, or here's what I'm thinking about. What are your thoughts? And then number 2, produce a product, solve a problem. Know that whatever you gave to the government, whatever you gave to corporate, that genius you can monetize to save yourself and your family.
Thank you so much. So powerful. Dr. Johnson, do you have anything to add to that?
That was
Build on it.
wonderful. Yes. I would say the only thing I would just want to interject these 2 words. We've been talking about it, and they're mentorship and sponsorship. And so, to the degree that you're one of those women, or you're a man who is still in good standing in the workforce, and you can make space for another one of us, make that space. I'm not asking you, I would never want to bring someone into a role that they weren't ready to handle. But there are so many of us with so many talents who are ready to handle that. So I'll just say, remember to reach back. I think that's going to be important for us to do, because you never know when it could be you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson. Assemblywoman Sumter.
Listen, this has been so invaluable. The senator and I always talk about what more we can do, and we just keep raising the bar and creating spaces for us, creating spaces for our community, meeting people where they are. So thank you to both of you for joining us. I want to leave you with a couple of pieces. Release the shame. If you're feeling that is something that was you versus the environment, the shame, the anger, the hurt. Let's try to break past that. Not saying those feelings aren't real. Consider truly thinking about what you need to support yourself in this season, whether it's a career coach, going back to some of the basics, things that you have done, the inventory. What have you done? What skill sets did you enjoy? Do that double list. Those are old strategies. What I enjoyed about my job, what I didn't enjoy about my job. Do I like working with people? Do I not want to work with people? And then the retooling piece, what do you want to be when you grow up? It is rare that you're going to have that 30-year career like our parents did. The uber wealthy from corporate now are taking more corporate profits versus investing back into their workforce. So it's what are you creating for yourself? And then if you're thinking about all that, this is a season of giving and volunteering. Sometimes it's helpful if you put yourself in a space, and we're good for this. And again, it works for some folks where you're working with a volunteer pantry, shelter, childcare center, whatever your interest is, teaching technology to folks who may not know how to use it, learning AI, which are so many tools that you can use so that you're not just getting stuck in your own thoughts of what was. We got to figure out the future. We'll figure out the future together. I'm going to commit with the foundation chair and with our partners here. I'm going to put them on the spot that we'll try to create more spaces to hear your stories because that's important. And then spaces for the networking opportunities, because that's also how you get to the new mentorships and learning the different opportunities that are available today. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Senator, you're always a fabulous moderator.
Thank you so much. Wow, this was a robust conversation. And I want to thank the three of you queens for coming on, dropping gems. Now, I had a whole closing, but just listening to what you all had to say, I just want to reiterate some of the things that you said. But I also want to let everyone know that there's going to be a poll question in the chat. So if you can answer that, that will be amazing. So I'm going to close with gratitude. I have this gratitude book that I open up every morning and I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for the hands that I can touch. I'm thankful for my eyes that I can see. I'm thankful for my best friend. I'm thankful for the legs that allow me to walk. If you begin to write out 3 things that you're grateful for, and you do that on a consistent basis, 3 times 365 days, that's a lot. That's a lot that you are grateful for. Then I'm just going to say, mental health, check in with yourself. It is okay to not be okay. You check in with yourself, but don't stay that way. Seek out help. Get support for yourself. As DC Marshall said, and I'm going to say it this way, put your mask on first before you put the mask on someone else. Take care of you. Meet people where they are. Volunteer, learn a skill. As Dr. Johnson said, mentor. If you can be a mentor, be a mentor. If you need to seek a mentor, seek a mentor. If you can be a sponsor, be a sponsor. As Assemblywoman said, release the shame. Release it. Identify some skill sets. And that question, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm going to say, what is that you want to be now? Because you may have lost that job. So what is it that you want to be now? And last but not least, today you came on. If you are someone who has a job and you know a sister who doesn't have one, who was impacted, share what you learned about what they can do and how you can support them. This is being recorded. So we hope to have this out so that more of the masses can see. So begin to write a new chapter for your life. And in the next 10 years, the memoir that you're going to have, what happened to you will be a chapter, but the next chapter is going to be all glory. To God be the glory. Thank you so much for coming on, Queens, and thank you to the audience who have listened to this robust conversation. Thank you to the African American Chamber of Commerce Foundation for partnering with the New Jersey Legislative Black Caucus Foundation. We appreciate you. I appreciate you. I love you. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.